And it's 6 o'clock. Okay. Good evening, everybody, and are we ready?
Yes.
Yes, thank you for being here and taking the time to be here. It is now 6 o'clock on November 1st, 2022, and we, the P&Z Commission, call this meeting to order. Nikki, it looks like there's nobody here that needs to speak that's not on the agenda for tonight. Okay. All right. Moving on to item number 1 on the agenda, consideration of possible action on the October 4th, 2022 regular meeting minutes.
I move to approve the meeting minutes.
We have a motion and
I'll second.
we have a second. All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous, the motion passes. Item number 2, consideration and possible action on proposed side and rear yard fencing at 918 Caroline Street, located in the Historic Preservation District.
Okay, Commissioners, Dave has put together in your packet some pictures, and the homeowner at 918 Caroline Street planning to construct a side and a rear yard fence. 2 other homes nearby on Shepherd Street have the same fence style. Though Shepherd Street is not within the Historic Preservation District, they do need Planning and Zoning Commission approval for any exterior modifications. The proposed fence has a generally neutral appearance, is an appropriate scale for the surroundings, and the color is consistent with the other fences in the area. He has provided on page 2 of the, actually page 11 of the packet, the survey plat and pictures of the existing house and fencing, and the proposed one fencing on page 12.
Thank you, Nikki. And I should have pointed out at the beginning of the meeting, just a note that Dave McCorkerdale is not here. He's on vacation, and I think he'll be back next week, or later on this week. But apparently Dave did, on the form I see his name, I mean, on what we're looking at, he's been in communication. Well, we're looking at the standard form, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, this is the same situation. I remember way back, I think the house next door put a pool in 4 or 5 years ago, and they asked to put a fence in this nature, to little privacy and whatnot.
Yes.
And it's the same basic look. It doesn't come all the way out to the wrought iron, just at the edge of the house and back.
Yeah, I agree. It's a good look. We've looked at these before, and in that particular neighborhood, there's really 3, I think, styles of wood fence, and they all look good. There's a little variety, you know, some are vertical, some are horizontal.
Right.
There is one other one just like this one. And of course, they've got the wrought iron across the front.
What is the height of it? Is it 4 foot?
Probably at least, yeah.
Standard,
Waist high, I imagine.
38 inch, 4 foot.
It meets the minimum standards.
All right. I just wondered, is it going to be consistent? I know it says it's going to look like it, but is it going to be consistent in height? Is what I'm asking.
Okay, well, per a zoning ordinance, for fencing, there is a minimum standard, and if he's making the recommendation to approve, I can almost guarantee, obviously, that he would have reviewed it as such.
Yeah, I just, you'd hate to see,
But I do not have any details of the height of the fencing.
you know, but you see what I'm saying, the natural
Yes.
flow, the front wrought iron is uniform.
Sure.
And whether the back is horizontal or vertical fencing, and like nature is what they're saying, okay, like nature, but is it going to be 4 foot or 5 foot? I'm just asking for particulars. I understand they'll probably be uniform.
I can check that out tomorrow and provide that to the commissioners via email.
Okay.
Appreciate that. Good point.
It's wood or vinyl, you know that?
Oh, yeah, we didn't know if it's natural or, there's not a lot of details on the request,
No.
which
It is stated it's the same fence style as the others.
It's a generally neutral appearance, is an appropriate scale for the surroundings, and the color is consistent with other fences in the area. That's a little vague. Like, is it wood? Is it composite?
Well, yeah.
And is it going to be the height?
Okay, I will find all of that out. I will have a look. Yeah, is it composite?
Is an appropriate scale for the surroundings. What surroundings? Tree surroundings or house
He
surroundings?
is talking about my interpretation of that would be the buildings and the homes.
Yeah,
Compared to the other fences.
The surrounding fences, there's one right next door to it.
yeah.
Yeah, and the picture shows the one that's very similar to it, so.
And it's an existing home, it just doesn't have a back fence, okay,
Yes.
all right.
Yeah, it's interesting how this one just happens to fall in the historic district, whereas the other ones, if you take the turn on, they don't, so, yeah. But it's a technicality.
Does the person know, apparently the person knows now that it's in the historical district?
Correct.
Okay,
Yes, Mr. McCorkdale has informed him.
yeah, like FYI, you're the one,
Right.
you're the one.
Okay, so on the motion, we could include just to confirm those items that you're asking.
Well, would we have any disagreements with it if it was 5 foot or 6 foot tall? You know what I mean? Like,
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, if,
that's what I'm saying, do we need to hear back before we say yes or no?
As long as it's similar to the other ones.
as long as it's similar to the house next door, height, similar to the height next door.
You could make a recommendation to approve based on those findings and would be final if they are consistent with what you have recommended.
Yeah, that way. it could be-
Consistent with the house, yeah, surrounding
If you make that
homes.
part of the motion, I will make sure it's included in the minutes and then I'll get that information out and email it to you tomorrow.
I make a motion to approve with consideration and receipt of information to make sure that the proposed side and rear yard fencing at 918 Caroline Street, located in the Historic Preservation District, is of the same height and composition and with what's going on in that neighborhood.
Exactly. Okay, we have a motion,
Thank you.
and
Second.
we have a second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposition? No opposition. The motion passes. Thank you. We'll appreciate getting that confirmation.
Thank you.
And moving on to item number 3, consideration and possible action on proposed exterior site modifications for the old Montgomery Steakhouse located at 204 McCown Street in the Historic Preservation District.
Okay, Commissioners, with this item, Wayne Kung, the owner of the old Montgomery Steakhouse, is planning a project that affects the east backside of that property. The project is to include switching from a propane to a natural gas service, which would allow the existing tank, the propane tank, to be removed, adding 3 parking spaces in the rear of the building for employee parking, and building a trash enclosure on the northeast corner of the property. He has included a site plan, and the plumbing work requires a city permit. The rest of the construction or the work that's required does not. The recommendation by staff is to approve the modifications contingent on the applicant obtaining the required city permits.
I like the idea they're going to enclose that dumpster.
Yeah.
I'm curious as to how they plan on doing that, if they're responsible for the upkeep of that enclosure. You know what I mean? Is it going to be, it could be anything from lattice, it could be 4-foot walls around it that's wood, it could be, plastic grass that's just put up on wire bars. I don't know what they're going to do. That's what I'm curious about. I'm glad that they're doing it, but I'm curious as to how they're going to do it, because we wanted them to do the dumpster coverings and set the precedence in downtown Montgomery, in that area, in the historic area. And we've really never gotten to that. Never really said, okay, this is what we'd like to do. And so that means the steakhouse is going to set the precedence of putting something around the
Yeah, it's
dumpster.
nice that he's taken upon himself to do it because there's really
Yes.
no ordinance requiring anybody.
Yeah, that's really good.
And that,
Yeah.
I mean,
That's one
I
of
like
the
that idea of him doing that. The only other question I have on that, it's really going to clean that back area up. Probably the big question I have is the new parking area.
Yeah.
Since it's going to be redone, is that going to be asphalt or concrete?
I do not have that information
Okay.
and was not provided that, so I can, again, that would be something I can provide you
Okay.
tomorrow morning.
I mean, is this something that he can wait, or is it something we can
Partially approved?
partially approve until, and then you and Dave make that call with our recommendations?
On that plan, I see something that says, I think it says concrete.
Oh, it
Yep,
does?
yep.
Does that say
It
concrete?
does.
Yes, but we don't know
Yeah.
if is it existing concrete?
No.
No.
It's gravel.
All right.
No.
Oh, the red means new,
Okay,
okay.
well, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
which is good. Yeah, it's a tight fit. There's some kind of a grease trap there, or grease bin, and it's a tight fit, but it looks like, I can see where they can get the 3 spaces in.
Yeah,
I'm glad to see the gas tank
Once,
going
once
to.
the tank goes away, yeah.
Yes.
okay. Well, I guess the only question is the materials on the dumpster surround.
What about the shed? It looks like they're going to build a shed.
I think that's existing.
That's existing.
Is it? Okay.
Yes,
Just want to make
yes.
sure.
It is, and it is, the nice thing about that back alley, just keep in mind for future too, is there is an approach for the trash truck to be able to get to the dumpster,
Yeah.
where it's tight because of that awning that comes over there, but as long as they leave that area in front of the approach, which it looks like he's got it from the drawing, there is enough room for the truck. I'm sure he's considered that. But that is where it's much more conducive to it, whereas the real problem up at Cozy Grape and those other areas is very limited where you can put an enclosure, once he had to put a generator in. So we appreciate what you can do there, and for that particular location, it looks like there's enough clearance for the approach for the truck without damaging anything.
Okay. There is I don't want to call it an easement, but where he's going to put that dumpster, there's lines of trees, if I'm picturing it correctly, and there's a little small area that's a small walkway and also entrances to the other building next to it. And I see the parking spots. We've
Right.
already seen that.
Right.
So the dumpster's going to back right up against the
Yeah,
property line, and there's a
Yeah.
tree there.
Yeah.
I'm just,
He's going to lose that parking space there. He's gaining 3, but he's giving up at least 1.5, I think.
and is he going to have to get rid of any existing foliage? I guess I'll just put it foliage, because I want to say there's a tree, but it might be, vines. It might be
Yeah, right to the line.
whatever you call it.
Process of construction, they would have to take that out anyway.
Yeah, it looks like it's right where the car's parked now.
But it's so close. Like it's so close to the area. Do y'all,
Yeah,
what
there's
do y'all
tr-
think about the
there's-
area? Is that a walking area, or is that just is that a
No,
porch there?
not on his
It's
property.
it's parking lot right
It's
there.
No, I mean on the other, no, the backside of of that building. Isn't there a building on that other side?
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
but that's their property.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just
I mean,
wondering how
I'm sure
close.
he's not going to encroach on their
Yeah.
Yeah.
property,
right.
I wouldn't
Alright.
think.
Yeah,
Well, we've got, how many feet are we arguing about a fence that needs to be moved?
I don't think. he
How many
doesn't-
meetings did
I
we
don't
have?
think- Yeah,
well, yeah.
I mean, let's try to avoid
But he's
this.
got to know that he's got to be on his property. I think, I'm assuming, of course, you always don't want to assume, but the property line should be clear there because of the way the parking spaces are existing.
Is there any permits he needs if he happens to have to cut a tree down on that line? Do you know?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Permit to get rid of anything on that property
The only
line?
permit required right now is the city permit for the plumbing.
All right.
Yeah, so the rest of the work does not require a permit.
And we had our ordinance person and our city engineer go over there, is that how we know that? Who went over there
That
to?
would be, I would assume this has not involved our engineer, this would be our permit staff.
All right. So somebody up here said, looked at this and went, I don't see any reason for a permit except for the gas change out, plumbing. Okay. It is really close to that property line. I just want to make sure that the person on the other side's happy too. So we answered the asphalt concrete. We think that's concrete already.
Yes. Yeah.
So we'll X that out. And the disabled is in the front. Dumpster. Can we ask for the material and the height of what it is that they're gonna, okay.
Yes, I will make sure to get that, all that information to you tomorrow.
I make a motion to approve the consideration and possible action on the proposed exterior site modifications for the old Montgomery Steakhouse located at 204 McGowan Street in the Historic Preservation District. Contingent of finding out, not contingent, but we would like to know the height and make and who's maintaining that dumpster enclosure.
We have a motion,
Second, as stated.
and we have a second. And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? No opposition, the motion passes. Thank you. All right, item number 4. Consideration and possible action on proposed canopy signage for the Simmons Bank ATM located at 14340 Liberty Street in Historic Preservation District.
Okay, Commissioners, excuse me. Back on October the 4th, this application came to you prior, and at that time was denied. Since that, they have resubmitted and reduced the overall height of the proposed signage to about 12 inches. And discussion was had about incorporating the elements of the Montgomery's historic nature. But based on the pictures and the evidence they have submitted, it does not appear that we've got any historical elements on the signage at all. Staff is recommending that you consider the revised ATM canopy signage and act as you deem suitable.
One thing, well, let me start off here. I want to thank Brittany for kind of putting this on hold from last meeting, because I have some things I started thinking about from past signages. I went back through the ordinances. Between all of us, is this just so I know if I can go any further, is this a structure? Is this a building? Is there occupants in it? Is there any storage?
Structure. Right.
Is this a structure or an occupied structure or business?
Occupied?
It's
No.
not occupied by any tenants, but I would say it is a structure.
Okay. The reason I'm asking is because in the ordinance on the sign section, 66, some things hit me because some things I've gone through before, and there's some things that could happen after this down the line, I'm afraid. So if you go to your Article 1 in 66.1 definitions, I'm considering this an off-premise sign, which means a sign which is located on property and transmits a message pertaining to a product, use, occupancy, or function which is not located on the same property as the sign. Then you go down to section 6-2, prohibited signs, and it says signs or billboard off premise from the location of the subject of the advertising content, with the exception of city-approved community commercial signs.
I guess one question is it on premise or off premise?
Is there a bank there?
There's no bank at this location, so this would be considered an off-premise
Right.
sign.
I see what you mean, yeah.
There's no building there.
Can I ask a question? Who said yes to it? Who said yes to that
Well,
behavior a long time ago?
Last,
No, I'm talking about the actual ATM machine. Because as far as
that
I'm
was a couple
concerned,
years ago.
okay, because it just appeared.
It appeared, but there was no signage on it.
What do you mean, who said yes to it? Are you trying to point
Like, I
out
didn't-
some person?
Well, no, it was-
No.
Voted on.
Like if it's an ordinance or like if it was like, can you just put an ATM
Well, that
machine?
was approved through us.
Okay, that's what I'm.
Yeah,
okay,
just an
okay.
AT, but there, and
Okay.
there, when it was
Bank of Texas?
yes, there was no signage. They just had the canopy and the ATM machine. But that's what I'm getting at. It's not a structure, it'll be an off premises sign of the bank down the road.
So before, when it was
There was nothing up there.
Spirit of Texas, their logo was on the ATM machine.
Oh, on the machine itself?
Yeah, but you're saying there was nothing on the
No.
awning at all?
No.
I don't know if I would call it off-premises sign, because if it's a site, like if it's a ground lease, I would imagine.
It's
Or
not
is
a
it
ground,
owned?
it's through Cozy Grape.
Cozy Grove owns it. Okay, so it's a structure. Okay, well, that makes,
But then you get into who asked for it? I mean, did the Cozy Grape,
No, state.
they were approached by the
But
bank?
still, the Cozy Grape cannot advertise from somebody else on their property.
Well, that's true.
Do you think he's
But if you
getting
look at the
paid for
nature of what we're talking about, that's true for most signs, yes, but ATMs is very common to have those not, that's the whole point, is you want to have a place to do your banking.
Well, I'm not saying shut it down, I'm talking about the signage.
Yeah,
If they want to put advertisement, they can put it on that little kiosk at the corner with their signage and it says ATM this way.
but I'd imagine they're paying a ground rent to Cozy Grave, and so they essentially have rights to that small space. And it's
Yeah.
essentially a self-service kiosk. So where the service is provided on site, you know, so I guess it would be that.
well, I don't think there's any question as far as should it be there or not. I mean, it's,
Oh, no, I'm not saying
Yeah,
that, I'm talking
okay.
about the signage.
but the signage, you've got to have something to designate it, whether it's whether it's on the machine itself or.
Well, I don't think it was originally set there for people going 149 to see a ATM. It was the convenience of people walking the street downtown.
Right,
Need the money.
right.
You know, it
Yes.
wasn't for a everyday
Not to be seen.
business drive up through business. It
Right.
was for the convenience for people,
Exactly.
because during all the festivals, people would need money and they would ask where it would be, and the closest place they would go would be, could go to Wood Forest or the street down by the funeral home. At that point, when I forget the lady's name, worked for the bank at the cross from the funeral home, next to the funeral home, when we had festivals, they had a mobile ATM that they brought in for that.
Right. But yes, that's why at the last meeting, we asked to reduce to 12 inch.
And that's-
Because we
right.
specifically stated, we
Okay.
you don't need to be able to see it from 105 or from 149. And that was the point of reducing down to 12 inch, because it's only meant to be seen for walking around in that particular area, which that's just common. My thought is simply, I understand your point, Bill, but we also have to remember banks are a little different than some little boutique or something like that. I mean, they have their standard,
Okay, Jeff?
let me finish.
Okay.
They have their standard logos, and it's a corporate thing. And I think it was a nice idea to say, can you make it look a little more historic? But because it is a bank, I really think they have to be recognized with their standard logo.
Well, I'm not, the logo, they can do whatever they want to outside of the historical business to me. I'm talking about no logo at all. It's an off-premises business they are promoting.
Well, when it was Spirit of Texas, it was on there. It just
Yeah,
wasn't.
no, it was not.
It was on the machine. It
On the
wasn't.
machine,
Yeah,
yes,
so-
on the screen,
Well,
but not up here.
it's okay. to me, it's, you gotta be able to see it where it's located when you're walking around. If you're 5 doors down and you're looking for an ATM, you gotta be able to see where it is.
Okay.
Just because they didn't do exactly the same exact thing, but
So how big is it this time on a sign? If they reduced it, the size?
Yeah.
And that's the words, like, instead of it being this big, it's this big? So is that what you're talking about, this sign?
The depth of the sign is now 10 inches. So it's 10 by
Yeah.
6 foot
Yeah.
canopy, and the signage is actually going on the 10-inch depth along the edge.
and I understand, we want to try to keep it reasonable. I guess my point is when we're getting so many big groups coming in, festivals, the street dance, we had the Halloween, and when people are coming in from outside, they probably don't know where everything is, and the idea is to be able to see it from some distance within a walking distance, because you get so many people walking around with these crowds.
And it's not lit, right? It's just going to be the words on there, so at nighttime,
It's lit now.
say it again?
It's lit now,
It's,
underneath.
Underneath, yeah.
Yes,
so
but
the
the,
sign itself is not illuminated, it's just the lit underneath the canopy.
Right, it's the metal frame.
and it's just a material that's going to be put inside the 10-inch depth?
Yes.
Okay, slides in there, slides out, or whatever.
Yeah.
I think interesting for you to bring up off-premises signs, but I'm thinking that because the service is provided on that small site, I mean, it's technically a banking operation at that location. You can withdraw and, I guess deposit money.
Yeah, it's a big,
it's
it's not just that little bitty ATM that you get in the gas station.
Right.
It's real, like, you can do,
And so
It
that's
says
what,
off-premises sign means a sign which is located on a property, transmits a message pertaining to a product, use, occupancy, or function which is not located on the same property as a sign.
Yeah, it's.
So that means I can have a business over there across the street of Brookshire's in one of those little shops. And if I strike a deal with Larry Jacobs, I can put my sign on his property.
I see your point. I think what Brittany's saying is this is like a leased, looks like look at it like a small business on its own on that on that property. So they have a sign to go with that. Whereas, I know the wording gets tricky, but if you've got a business that's putting somebody else's sign on the property, then that's not really right. But here, I'm thinking it's considered either a lease or some kind of agreement with the property owner. That's, in other words, if we think of it like running its own entity, its own individual business right there.
Is it
It
occupied?
has to have something to designate
Is it occupied?
what it is.
Is it occupied?
It's occupied by a machine.
self-service.
Boy, we are stretching stuff now.
Does
This is how the food truck started.
the
yes.
code have?
I didn't want to say that out loud, but that's
Well,
what's in the
I
back of my
just
mind.
did.
Does the code have anything for self-service?
I just did.
Because 2 showed up.
Let me see if I
I,
can.
I wouldn't go there. I wouldn't even get, that's a
No,
whole
that's
different
not, I mean, I
subject.
was thinking when you, well, that led to that.
It's just opening a door. Depending on who you want to walk through it.
ATM then would not, I mean,
Yeah.
Well,
issues with the Simmons Bank. They could, the ATM signage would be appropriate, is what you're saying, but Simmons Bank,
They can put anything they want to on their screen.
what, I'm saying like, because you're saying, well, the operation is not on site, but if it's an ATM on
I
site,
mean,
you know,
well,
it's not like the downtown is 8 to 10 square blocks.
yeah.
you know?
Is it the ATM
Well,
wording?
but the point
or
is, it's an
Simmons
ATM.
Bank? What is your main concern? The
I'm-
Simmons Bank or
No,
the ATM?
The sign.
The sign itself, okay.
Being put on a non-occupied.
Would you be opposed to it just saying ATM? And maybe putting Simmons Bank ATM on the little wood sign that's on the corner?
You know, we have to keep perspective. There's a lot of people that come in, like I say, they come in from, they don't live, they have to have a way to know what, to look up and see what's what. And the point is, any ATM I've ever seen has got some kind of a
I know,
designation.
but they're not downtown historical district Montgomery, which we're trying to protect.
Keep, yes.
Sure, I understand that, but
I mean, we're worried about
there's
dumpsters.
kind of a standard,
You know, we're worried about dumpsters. You know, this is, you know,
I've not seen anything about self-service in any of the code.
Discretionary and. Yikes, okay.
well, we've already asked them to come back, we said 12, as long as you reduce the size, is what we had talked about. And now we're changing it. I understand your point, but I still feel it's important to be able to see it from some distance to see what it is. You get a lot of people that come in through town that are doing all kinds of tourism and festivals, and people need an ATM.
well, usually if I'm in a little town, I ask, where's the nearest ATM? And somebody tells me it's down behind the backside of Cozy Grape. Yeah, that's,
I just don't want our town to turn into a bunch of
it's what,
little bitty, itty bitty, here's a sign, there's a sign, everywhere a sign.
you know, we finally have gotten control of the banners.
Yes.
Well, why is it any different than any other business sign? I mean, we've got quite a mix of signs as it is. I haven't heard a lot of complaints about the signage that we have. This is much smaller than the things you
It's
see
not
over
the sign, Jeff, it's the ordinance.
No, that ordinance is about when you have a separate sign for a different business on the property. This is a sign for what's existing on that little piece of land. You don't have, it's not advertising something else.
Does it matter if someone's giving you money to have that little bitty space and then they give you a little bit more money for actually putting their name on it? Does that matter?
I don't understand the question.
No, because I mean, this is Simmons property, owns the machine, owns the structure, even though it's not their property.
Do they pay to have that, to put their,
I don't know.
I was just wondering, is
It
that,
must be under a ground lease or something like that, I
Sure.
would imagine.
Some kind of agreement.
that's what I'm wondering.
No, they lease it from Cozy
So
Grape.
why are you asking about, does somebody pay a little bit of money and pay a little more? What's that all about?
I'm just wondering if there's money in it to be had if you're allowed to put your name on it.
You meaning Cozy Grape put their name?
Yeah, not Cozy Grape, but Simmons paying Cozy Grape to allow them to, do you mind if we put a sign up here? You know how you can advertise and you can put, you can lease a little bit of space on your property and have people advertise on your property?
And this is.
That's all I'm wondering.
This was existing with the
Yes.
other, the Spirit of Texas, I can't remember the name of the bank, I'm sorry.
Spirit.
So this
Spirit of
was
Texas.
existing. Internal agreements, external agreements, I know nothing of, so.
So Bill, is the crux of the ordinance and the code reading that you have, because there's no person occupying that property, that it does not qualify as a premise, like a business premise? Is that?
You know, says signs or billboards on premises from a location or subject of the advertising content with the, let's see, prohibited signs or billboards of off-premise from the location of the subject of the advertising content. So it's a sign or a billboard off-premise from the location of the subject advertising content. Which means here and down on the corner. They're advertising their bank here.
But if that ATM is operational and it's a self-service kiosk and they have rights to that small site, then would they have the rights to advertise that operation at that location?
Well, they can do whatever they want to on their screen.
It is, yeah, it's a self-service.
But this is my perspective. So do what, but I just thought I'd bring this up. Because
So
just future.
let me, in my common sense, what I hear, I think I hear is, let's just say that the cheese place, right? They opened up, they got a cheese place, they got signs all over it. But if they put a sign down at the corner, or say in front of the Southern Roots, boutique for their cheese. Is that what you're talking about? Is that what you think? Is that what you're trying to say to us, is that the business is down here and it's got signs all over it, but yet they're getting additional advertising?
But you can't get cheese down there by Southern Roots, so that would be wrong.
That's right. I'm just asking,
Yeah,
is that what you're thinking?
But they could start selling cheese down on that porch if they wanted to. And have a sign there, right?
But that's what I'm trying to get at, is what is it that you're,
Where does it stop? I mean, where does it stop?
He's saying the actual local business operation, like the bank, is, a different location.
In other words, I think what
This
they're
is a
trying to say
satellite
here is the
operation,
sign can only be located where the service is.
In the historical
And
downtown.
this is the service at this location.
This location
Yeah.
provides a service, even though it is a satellite location. But it is, they have,
Yeah.
I get you, I do.
That's a good description, satellite operation.
that's yeah.
Yeah, I know. I just, we do so many signs, and in proportion-wise, reducing it down, that's where I don't know if we can say we want less even than that. Because if you look at other storefronts,
Well, it can only be, even what they have there, is it the same, does it meet the dimensions of the sign ordinance? Less than 60% of this and
yeah, I think,
you know what I'm saying?
right. I think you gotta look at the
you gotta
whole
look
square,
at that too.
look at the whole rectangle.
Yeah.
And the sign.
Not the whole rectangle, the
Well,
structure,
yes, but I'm saying.
not the whole
what your eye sees.
square.
Well, it can't go much smaller, you have to read it.
But, I mean, if you want to go percentage, then we need to figure out the percentage. But, I'm just going by what I'm reading here. I may be way off base.
Well, if
No, we understand your
What's that?
point.
I said, if that's applicable, like your reading of it, what would you want to, you wouldn't want to see any signage there at all, period? Okay.
Just on the ATM itself. I mean, on the machine.
Yeah, they can put it on their machine. They can put whatever they want to on their machine. But I'm talking about, up in the air, the framework, the signage, advertising.
Sure. I don't know, I understand your point. To me, just proportion-wise, with it reduced down to 12-inch, I feel like it's okay. Probably not our first choice for the historic area, but we have quite a bit of variety. I mean, it's not bright. It's
But
not,
look at all the opportunity that's fixing to happen. You know, right there where Wings of Texas, or whatever it's called,
Sure.
Wings of Montgomery is going to be sold, whatever's going to go there, barbecue place, who knows? The other building is supposed to be real estate. We don't know if that's what's going to go on. They've been, you know, there's two sides of that building's going to be parking. Who knows what else is going to be tried to be put in those parking spots? And if we don't get a handle on,
well, we've always had
allow in our-
a real mix of different
Yes.
fonts and different styles of signs, depending on the business. And my point is, being a bank, they're pretty limited. They have to stick within their corporate logo. Whereas if it's some kind of casual thing, and then they can get a little creative with various looks.
Well, I mean, look at their logo. I mean, is it historical in design? I mean, you know, we've looked at that before too.
Right.
I mean,
But again, I think with a bank, so it has to be recognized by the general public, you know, just like any other standard. Whether it's, you know, Chick-fil-A's got their own standard. They all have their own corporate, whatever it's called.
you know, if that, the vertical post on the side there, if they want to put ATM, they can put ATM. That's just,
You just don't like the Simmons Bank.
I don't dislike Simmons.
No, I, don't put that on.
But I just don't,
I do understand your point. I guess I keep going back to the fact it's a bank.
I don't know, is it more of an eyesore to have no signage?
well, you don't notice it now.
Yeah, I know, well, yeah, but is that good or bad?
It's true, it could look kind of unfinished if it, I mean, when you have a,
It's gray of color. I mean, it blends, you don't notice it.
People, yeah, I don't know, I don't know if it's better. To me, personally, I think signage would be better than it looks tended to, because right now, if you look at it, was operational, is it not? I mean, during the daytime, I would think that, I don't know if I've ever seen it.
yeah, kind of
Well,
an,
that's just, this is just my opinion and my concern, so.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you bringing that up, though, it's good to think
I
about,
mean-
for sure.
it's
You know,
good.
we're so concerned about the 60% rule on some of these people's signs, and then, you know, this is something that's never been approached before, so.
is it
It's a little-
the
it's
right
not-
dimensions?
It's a little different than that because it's not the side of it's not a building. So you don't really have you know what I mean? It's not like you've got the exterior facade wall. That's why I say, to my eye, it's within the 60% rule because you're looking at, you know, the whole thing. I mean, as you look at the machine and in other words, the outline of the,
Will they be able to enclose it?
no.
Is that structure?
The whole point was we already
Yeah.
reduced it down to 12 inches.
Actually, on the last page, you can see the dimensions. The actual depth of the canopy is 10 inches, but the sign, I'll read that. The actual words look like they would be 9 inches.
Yeah.
The logo, yeah, the logo's 9 inches.
Oh, yes, yes, it does say that. That's true. And that way you don't feel like it's coming over the edges. It's
Correct.
well within the,
Of the black perimeter or perimeter space.
And they want to do it on all four sides. Is
Yeah.
that,
4 sides.
yeah, they want to do it on 4 sides.
They're aluminum panels, painted black, first surface vinyl graphics, non-illuminated, mount flush to existing canopy, bottom of panels flush with bottom of canopy, exact mounting method to be determined.
yeah, 9 inches doesn't seem too bad.
And they're saying the scale is, what is it, a third? A third of an inch equals 1 foot by 0 inches? What is that?
1/2 inch equals 1 foot.
Yeah, 1 foot. I keep trying to use my finger.
So it's well within, it's definitely less than a 12, and it's contained within, it's not like the signage part is coming over the edges, it's well within that exterior edge. Yeah, and it's,
I
understand.
don't know how I feel, I don't know. If you ask me yes or no, I don't know if I could give you a yes or a no. So I don't know what that means.
well, Bernie brings up a good point too. If you look at this, it almost looks like a, battleship gray, like it's unfinished. To me, if you kind of expect to have something on there.
Trying to think what it looked like before when they first put it in there. Was it a wood forest? And how did wood forest only had the wood forest
Or was
insignia on the
It was the
screen?
Spirit of Texas.
Or, Spirit of
Yeah,
Texas.
Spirit,
It
yeah.
wasn't wood
It was
forest?
Spirit of Texas.
Spirit of Texas.
With a star and on the screen, I don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly how that looked. But
If they did have something up there, it got biased, because I was on planning and zoning when we approved them putting the machine there. And there was nothing about signage. Now, if they had signage on there, then it was done, and it slipped by everybody to be approved signage.
I think it was on the machine though, is what I'm saying.
Oh, I think it
Because
was
I mean,
on the machine, yeah.
yeah, the cover, I always remember, the cover was always dull and not, it didn't bring anything, and I never went downtown at nighttime and ever remember it being lit up. So that's how,
I'm not sure that cover was even there.
yeah, that's what I mean, is it's not something that I walk downtown and go, man, there's the ATM machine.
Well, I think it did.
Right now, it just is, it's a square cement block when I walk by it. I don't,
Well, but we do we have a cover, so
yeah, I don't know.
I think the letter's small enough where it's in proportion. I understand.
Dang it. Stop.
In general, though, is like the hesitation a little bit with like just the commercialization and this like standardization of this kind of signage?
Yes, and we know that Cozy Gray is going to build out, put a patio up there, which, that design is in character of their current building, nothing obtrusive, nothing that's going to go, oh, wow, this is almost like,
But you got to remember, this is what you expect to see of an ATM. I mean, it's an ATM. It's not somebody's trying to sell,
purses.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. it's,
You know, if this was across the road, we wouldn't even be here because we don't have to worry about that. But this is in the historical district.
And once you say yes, then,
Do you remember when it was originally approved, if Cozy Grapes owns the
They own
site, or do, and,
Well, no,
Simmons
they're
owns
they're
them.
leasing it. They're
I'm sure that, yeah.
the banks are leasing that little piece, that little
okay,
10 by 10 area.
not just the machine, this,
Yeah, they're leasing the building. I mean, they're leasing the little 10 by 10 area. The bank owns,
so as a tenant or a lessee though, don't they have rights to advertise their service?
they do on the screen.
Well, and getting back to the one thing we have to remember is in the bank business, I'm sure it's a standard. I think the awning was always there. You have to have a way to be protected from the rain and, you know, it's an electronic machine. So that's my point, is that that's a standard way that we can't really ask them to make that thing look different than what it is.
Well, they're not asking to do that. They're asking to put a sign
I'm
up.
talking about the structure itself.
Well, I know, but they're not asking to change the structure.
Yeah.
All that's been approved.
Well,
So
I
does this,
understand your point.
does the signage, like if it was on the screen, I guess I want to know more of the history of like the approval of this. Was when you approved it, it's for this structure, not the canopy was added later?
No, it was,
It was at the time?
yes.
Yes, I believe it can.
Yeah,
So
all
I'm
that
wondering
was,
now, like percentage wise, okay, well, if it was a screen advertisement, you know, then being on screen would be more than enough. You know what I mean? I just want to know more about.
Again, I try to relate it to other signage, and any business wants it up high enough where you see it from a distance. And I'm thinking that looks appropriate for the height. Just for somebody that's just 2 doors down. I mean, you got to be able to see. If it's just the machine only, and quite frankly, I don't remember what it had before. I thought it had some kind of a logo on the whole thing, but I don't know. I really don't remember. But I just feel like if we're gonna, all the other signs you see in town are at, you know, they're at, over a door, they're all up 7, 8, 9, 10 feet high. I don't know how we can make it different for this.
only thing I'm going by, Jeff, is off-premises sign.
Right.
I'm not talking about,
But then,
I'm not talking about a brick and mortar business.
right, I understand. Yeah, it depends how we interpret that, and I really feel that that's talking about somebody putting their sign on another business's property, where this is, the sign is there for that particular entity. That's their, whether they're leasing it or whatever it is, the sign is for what's there. So
But
that's a little different situation.
in totality, if we total up would all the sides of this canopy, like the area of signage, have to be totaled up to determine if it's within the 60%? Or whatever, 30, whatever, I don't know. Okay. And do we know if that is compliant?
that's what I was reading that last page and trying to calculate in my head.
Oh.
Not that I'm a mathematician, but that's what I was trying to do when I was reading that out loud and I was reading the dimensions, so.
Well, we don't have a building with a side. It's not a traditional, it's not a brick and mortar building. So,
Just, here, read that.
4 sides required total.
Permits, okay. Located on a property and transmits a message pertaining to a product use, occupancy, or function not located on the same property as the sign. So even the ATM is the use on that property.
But it's not. But it's not located on the same property as the sign. Function which is pertaining to the property. It's not located on the same property. That's what I'm getting at. It's not the same property as the main
Operation, business,
operation.
right?
Yes.
But it could be like,
It's an
an
extension
individual
of,
entity could take that over,
it's like a mini
you
bank.
know, right?
It's an extension of the bank.
Trying to think of something else, like an air tire pump or, you know, water.
But yeah, we don't want to see other businesses' signs on any other property other than their own, where their business is.
So if I have the gas station here on the corner, I'm gonna put a air pressure pump next door to this. And we'll put a big sign up there. Exxon Mobil, air pump,
On
25
the
cents.
property or off the property?
It's off property. Or I'm gonna have the gas station here, and I'm gonna put an ice machine in historical downtown. I'm gonna lease from, let's say Larry Jacobs on the corner. I got my little business over here, and I'm gonna start selling ice down here. It's not the main operation.
Well, but this has been approved, that AT&T.
I understand that's been approved, but I'm talking about future. My question, and then we can vote whatever you want to do. My question is, how is this going to affect future? Are we going to open up a Pandora's box?
Or is this instance narrowly tailored enough for us to say, well, it's a satellite operation in and of itself, it's independent, right? Self-service, there's an operation there that they're advertising for that operation.
It is self-service, yes.
Do you happen to know if
Owned and operated by
we
this owner.
discussed updating the sign ordinance before with Mr. Montgomery?
Yeah, we've asked for ordinances.
No, we've talked about this, and there really hasn't been a
Oh,
problem
no,
with
the
signage.
sign ordinance is fine. I
We haven't had a
think,
problem, we haven't had no complaints on
no,
signage.
you know, this is the first time, well, kind of the first time something like this has come up. And between last meeting and this meeting, I remember some things, and that's why I got on the computer and dug this up. And, you know, this is why, you know, we have ordinances. And I guess, you know, everything's interpretation. So, you know, this is my interpretation, and that's why there's a group here.
Yeah.
Right.
And whatever the group does, the group does. I mean, it's a,
Yeah, this thing
A
does show
democracy,
it
huh?
doesn't tidy in a box, that's for sure.
yeah.
True.
But no, I mean, this
Yeah.
is my views, my thoughts, and, you know, we just go from here. I mean, it's whichever way it goes, it goes.
It's a good point, and that is why we're here, to try to interpret things, and it's not always black and white. So, yeah, good point. We just try to interpret the best we can.
Now, if you read this, an on-premises sign means a sign that transmits a message pertaining to a product, use, occupancy, or function that is located on the same property as the sign.
So what happens if you do have, okay, you know how we have Dollar General now is every 7 miles? That's their mission right now, is to put one within 7 miles. In my mind, I don't like it because of the aesthetics, and I didn't want the ATM there in the beginning. So I wasn't on the commission then, that's my feelings, but it's there. But can we consider it, I mean, yes, Simmons Bank is over here, it is, but that is a freestanding piece of equipment standing there, giving you something that you want. It would be like an ice machine. I know, but I'm just saying though, it's a separate entity, and it is a ATM, it is a bank, it is something that someone gets something from, and I don't like it.
I'm
I know.
not trying to take away the ATM.
I know, but
It's-
if we do this and we say yes to this ATM, and we say yes.
It's not the ATM.
It's not the ATM, but it's the future. So in order to make sure that what you're talking about doesn't happen after the ATM, or sets the motion of something like this happening again on another parking lot or a parking area, what is it that we need to do as a commission? Do we need to change the ordinance? Do we need to change the words? Do we need to say this is a special circumstance and this is why we're doing it this way? Moving forward, we won't approve these things. Like, how can we fix it moving forward?
We interpret, each one of us is going to interpret an ordinance, no matter how a law is written.
Right.
Or an ordinance, there's going to be differences.
Right.
Okay, so as me sitting here, I interpret it this way, Rick interprets it her way, Jeff and you. So we vote the way you interpret it, and we go down the road. And what happens from here on out happens from here on out, good or bad.
Yeah, that's a
I
good
mean,
point.
that's,
Yeah, we really, because you can't, no matter how
I mean,
hard you
but you know, there's plenty of ordinances here,
Yes.
okay? We just, you know, it depends on how it is interpreted by each individual.
Because we're only growing. Downtown
Right.
historic Montgomery is growing, and whether we like it or not, because once they move that, I mean, it's coming. Once they move that black building, that's an empty lot. That person knows that that piece of property is historical, and it's within the historical district, and that's going to come before us. So is what is going to come before us. So if we try to look into the future, just like we've tried to look in the future before, great example, the fence behind, Wings of Montgomery. I understand us moving forward, I understand, but how do we protect it? Do we protect it tonight? Because if we say yes tonight to this sign, then that ordinance stands uninterpreted by 4 people. Or do we say no and have a special meeting and change and read the ordinances and decide that we're going to take care of page 1 through 3 ordinances and get it straightened out? Because we can't continue to come to meetings. I mean, I think I just got reelected for 2 more years. And in 2 years, no telling what's going to be in downtown Montgomery. I mean, we've got the food court coming down past the upholstery place. We've got, we got a lot.
Well, I mean, that's
all part of
why, and that's
growth.
why there's
Yeah.
5 of us here, because there's 5 different ideas.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What do we want to do, though? Do we want to say yes with special circumstances and say, okay, we're saying yes, but we want to review this ordinance and we want to review the wording in it so that in the future it is more defined as to what someone can and can't do?
Well, I mean,
How do you?
Yeah, I think you'll find most, these restrictions, or they all have to have some areas where
I'm
you,
not going to go as far as
Yeah.
rewriting
No.
ordinances, because that's a long
it's a,
time.
yeah. And
That's a
and
long
things change over time, and I think you hit the nail on the head. We just have to try to interpret and look, what makes sense. We know there's growth. Personally, we might not like an ATM, but the reality is, we're advertising it to be tourism, we're growing, we're doing all these festivals, and there's no other ATM within anywhere. You've got to go across 105 to get to an ATM. So,
Until the next one.
but what I'm saying is, personally, you might not like it, but we as a group have to vote for the entire community. And it's not just the 450
That's
people
right.
that live There's 40,000 people that call Montgomery
Yeah, but
home.
the reason why we're here is the reason why this is brought forward to us is to preserve the historical downtown Montgomery.
Sure.
Not to please people from Conroe, Magnolia, this, that, and the other, because they can't see an ATM sign, which 9 times out of 10, they're going to go, hey, is there an ATM in town?
So is that structure, is 10 by 10, let's just say?
I don't
No,
know.
I'm just saying though, is that a standard, or is there, if someone says, I want another ATM, or maybe someone wants to do a water stand, one of those machines that you
Well,
just get water at, I'm just,
Yeah, they would have to, just like Wayne did with his enclosure, they'd have to come. When they came to us about the ATM, they had the ATM, they had the drawings for the structure, they had everything. So it all depends on what you're putting there that will dictate size.
okay.
So,
Yeah, we do appreciate the historic features we have, but we also have always agreed that we have quite an eclectic mix too. So we've got new and we've got old, and I think we should embrace that. That's not a bad thing. We're going to always have a mix of the old and the new. I guess that's the challenge. It's not like we're starting with a clean slate and we're not building Disney World. It's not going to be perfect.
it's going to look like it here pretty soon.
Well, again, going back to, it's been approved to have an ATM there, and I just feel like it needs to be recognized for what it is let's just say from a reasonable distance, and that's all I'll say on that. I think shrinking the letters down to the 9 inches is definitely it's not out of proportion. I think it's within proportion, but it's just my feeling.
I appreciate the discussion, but my interpretation of the statute, I'm going to move to approve it, given that it is a self-operating, self-service kiosk station. Although it's owned and operated by Simmons Bank, it's self-service, independent satellite location. So I move to approve.
Okay. Good discussion, and we have a motion. Do we have a second? I'll second it. I'll second that. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
I'll be bullheaded. Nope, no.
Okay,
Nope.
we have 2 opposed, so we have a tie, and we don't have an odd number.
We do not have someone that can break that tie.
No.
I just don't feel comfortable passing it right at this very moment because of the uncertainty of the ordinance and what could be moving forward, especially as fast as everything's moving around here. I understand the separate entity.
I know.
I do. I do.
I think one thing that would maybe help out, I know, Nikki, I know you're not in Dave's position. Maybe it'd be good to hear Dave's thoughts on what the 2 definitions mean. Or if he can,
Well, and the city attorney, if he wants to weigh
or
in
the city
too.
attorney, Steve.
Yeah. It's not that it doesn't need a sign, I guess, but it's not, to me, the ordinance doesn't allow it to take place, in my interpretation of what I've read, but.
Okay, so we will make note that there's
Are you going to bring it back to the next planning and zoning meeting?
I believe we have to.
With a tie vote, we
Yeah.
didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I just go
No,
along
so
with
no
that.
action, right? I guess.
This is no
No action.
No action.
Right.
And we can come to Dave individually and ask him to explain that ordinance. We just can't all sit together with him with the ordinance. Is that correct?
That's the working quorum.
Yes. So we can't do a working
Right.
forum, but if we want to individually ask him.
Okay. Well, good discussion, and we just need a motion.
I move to adjourn.
I'll
I
second.
second.
You agree with me?
We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Sorry, guys.
No, I
That's
appreciate
all
it.
right. That's all right. That's a good example of what we were talking about.